Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome to day 4 of the Power of Love Summit. Thank you so much for being here. Since we are going to talk about love, maybe we can just take a moment to center into our hearts before we get started. So I invite you, wherever you are, to turn your awareness inward. Maybe you put your hands on your heart, feeling for your heartbeat, feeling the rhythm of your life force energy, the source of unconditional love that exists inside you. It's available to you at any moment. Tuning into your breath. We'll take one more deep breath in. Pause and hold it at the top, really feeling that heart beating strong in your chest. And we'll open the mouth and exhale. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Brittany Tackett. I am a transpersonal therapist and coach, yoga and meditation teacher, and I am the founder of Heart First Education, whose mission is to educate the whole person, heart first. So I worked for about 4 school years as a mental health therapist. I worked in elementary schools and high schools. So I really got to see kind of a behind the scenes look of the mental health challenges that were going on in the schools and how there was such a disparity between how we educate. Like, we focus so much on the mind and the intellect, and really not very much at all on matters of the heart and emotional intelligence. And I feel that that imbalance in our education leads to an imbalanced society. And so I started this organization just as a way to help get these emotional intelligence skills out there, even in my own small way, in my own little corner of the world. So what I found when I was working in the schools is they started to call me the feelings teacher. I was like, why don't they actually have a feelings teacher? And so Heart First was born, and our vision is a world where hearts are educated as much as minds. And so that's the purpose of this summit too, is to help us to have these conversations about how we can transform our lives through living more in our heart and less in our heads. And so today I have a very special guest, Monique Sayers. She is also very much in this field of transforming our education. She has written a book on a new paradigm of education. So I'm so excited to have her here today to talk with us. Monique, would you introduce yourself and share a little bit more about your work and how you found this path?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. Thank you for grounding us and opening the space up with full presence. I actually had felt in my heart as well that that was like a necessary step. So thank you. That's beautiful. And I hope everybody out there's really able to just be in that space of listening and emptying the mind of maybe judgments or thoughts or whatever's there, or just letting it sit there and just allow yourself to go deeper into your body as you listen and really absorb what we're sharing with you today. And then you can obviously then transmute that into your own space, and that in itself is education. So that kind of led me into what I want to share around education. So my background is that I am an educator, like a formal educator, if you want to call it that, a primary school teacher, an ESL teacher, and I love it with all my heart and my passion. And just last year, during the pandemic, I went through this phase where I just wanted to call in my highest purpose. And I knew what I was doing was serving, but I knew that there was more to serve. And I've always been also a spiritual mentor, and I'm into meditation. I've been practicing that for 20 years as well. And I just would sit in meditation and just ask my higher self, the realms, whatever you want to call it, like, what is next? What am I here to do? And I would like allow myself to completely empty, like just completely empty of everything that there was, and without any expectation of things coming in. And I guess that's why I'm sharing around this little thing that we're explaining, to allow yourself just to empty and just be vessels and see what comes through for you. This might ignite you to then take action to do something in your life that's different, that you'd never imagined. I went into deep meditations, and I saw images of children, and I was just in this place of joy. And there was like this circular form that just kept coming, evolving. I can't describe it. It was like an energy form, an energy body that was just kind of wavering through my body, through my field, and through the cosmos. It was like kind of a cord of energy that was calling me. It was like calling me, okay, this is what you need to do. This is your pull. This is your service. And it was such a big mission that coming from the heart, of course, that I didn't know what to do. And I was like, this is too big. Like, please. I know I prayed for this, but it's too much. And so anyway, what came through was this energy of this new paradigm of education. And it's not about me, this new paradigm. This whole thing was all about just service to humanity. And that's why the book that we created, which you can see back here, is it's a collaborative group of us authors, which were educators, parents, mentors, different types of people, not just your typical like teacher in the classroom, like people who really just had that feeling and that concern for children, that they really wanted to make a change in children's lives. So energetically, I was drawn to each educator through my heart. And that was how I knew who was going to be co-creating the book, and then helping with co-creation of the divine mission. And so the wisdom of the heart has always been, really, really important in my life. And I can talk a little bit deeper about some of my time before I was in the space of being in an awakened heart process in a minute or whatever. But in terms of the book, the whole book was written like with heart wisdom. So we were changing the face of education, like empirical research. Okay, let's document this article that's been written by this person on this date to prove that we are this. And it was the opposite of that. It was the debunking of all of that. We don't need proof. The heart already knows, and everybody's heart code is unique. And so what my heart was leading everybody to capture was their personal wisdom, their personal journey, their personal energy with the sharing of this for our children. So I hope it's still going. It says it's frozen. I hope it's still going. So that was how it was created. Is that enough of an intro? I could go on for hours, but I hope you get the idea of it.
Yes, I think that's great. Now I think we are frozen. Uh-oh. There you are. Maybe. Monique, are you with us?
No, I can hear you again. We'll pray. Whenever we phrase, everybody can just like close their eyes for a moment. Just take a moment to pause. I can still hear you if you're there, Brittany.
Yes.
I don't know if anybody on the live can still hear me talking or not. Brittany's currently frozen. I don't know if it's me that's frozen or her. If I should continue talking. There we go. Perfect. Okay, beautiful.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the new paradigm and how it's different from what we're doing now? And what, I know you said it was a calling to you, but like what really prompted you to say like, the way we're educating it's not to our full potential as human beings, right? So like, where were you seeing those little pieces, and how is the new paradigm different?
The new paradigm, it came through, which was a circle. It was of education, where I saw that everything that we've been doing so far has been in some kind of dogma or some kind of framework. And so the initial feeling was it was just a letting go of all of that stuff, and then a uniting of what I call oneness or heart-centered process around everybody uniting. So all the fields and all the people are united. So it's like there's, at the moment, like you could separate people. These people are homeschoolers, these people are unschoolers, these people are college professors, and it means this type of education. This education means this. And, there's this kind of stigma or this judgment around that. So all of that was gone. We were holding hands without our hats, just ourselves with our hearts open. Here we are for our children. Okay, what's next? Okay, so then I channeled in different questions that I felt were really important to know around education. So some of them were like, what would a world look like without curriculum? What would a world look like with limitless education? What about the importance of IQ, EQ, and energetics in education? What about yeah, what about, there was a lot of different questions. We keep freezing. Oh dear.
Yeah,
I hope everybody can still hear us. Can you still hear me?
I can. It like cut out once or twice,
I'm
but
like,
I'm hearing you right now.
oh dear. Okay. Okay. I do have a different internet device we could change, or we could just keep going and everybody can be patient.
Yeah, it's
I
up to
don't.
you if you want to change the device. I'm fine with that, or we can keep going as we are. I think we froze again though, so we might want to try the other one. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can try it. Yeah, let's try it. Let's try the other one so people can get a good feel without it pausing. And I will just leave, and everybody who's there, thank you for listening. We'll be back in like 5 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. I will stay here and wait for Monique to come back on so that we don't have to start a whole new video. So thank you all so much for your patience. I hope you are having a beautiful day wherever you are. Yeah, so I love what Monique is talking about the new paradigm of education. That topic is very near and dear to my heart because I feel like our education is the foundation for everything, right? We are molding these young minds and hearts, right? But the focus now is so much on the mind and not on their hearts. And it just creates an imbalance, right? Where we're so up here, so in our heads, and not really living from here. And this is where our full presence is, right? And this is where all of our highest virtues lie. Love, kindness, compassion, all of that stuff comes from the heart. And we talk about it a lot, like metaphorically, like, oh, living from the heart, or when I trust my heart. But actually it really is a thing. And we've been finding that out. I love looking into research around neurocardiology and how our heart has like its own little heart brain. It's like 40,000 neurons in our heart. And our heart actually sends more messages to our brain than vice versa. And our heart has a significantly stronger electromagnetic field than the brain. And so when we live more in our hearts, and we're sending all that out to everybody else. Monique is back. Yay. Thank you all so much for your patience. Let's hope this works.
Okay. Can you hear me
Back.
now? Is that much better? I think it's better. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Great. So.
And we're still live. I've got it live. I just waited for
Okay,
you,
great.
and I
Yeah.
just filled in some blanks while we waited. So I hope this fixed it.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. So I was just sharing around the wisdom of the new paradigm. It was all about like basically the collaboration was one of the major pieces where all the faces of education were coming together as a connected, almost like a heartbeat of the world, like all as one. And it was a global awakening that was made for the highest good of the children. And from that, you asked me what is so different. Well, we all know the education system has always been, wanting to have an upgrade, and people have always been questioning it. So I actually walked into the process as a blank vessel, like a blank canvas, just with my heart open and expanded with some questions that I downloaded from the divine around what needs to happen. Because I decided, you know what, who am I, Monique Sayers, to say this is what needs to happen, world? Like, let's ask people, let's see what they think. And it was really remarkable what came through. So some of the questions were like, what is the importance of the EQ, the emotional quotient, the intelligence quotient, and then the energetic quotient? There was other questions around what would limitless curriculum look like? What would no curriculum look like? What would a world, without, I can't remember them all, but I got tongue-tied then. There was a whole lot of different questions basically. And so out of those, what actually came through, the main theme was mindfulness was the main key theme. Heart-centered education was the main key theme. So yeah, there was some questions about grading and testing and environment and all of those type of major kind of classroom topics. And so from all of these different educators, all what's written inside the book is, their wisdom, which they describe in different ways, but it all leads back to the heart. Like, we need to connect more. with our children. We need to have love. We need to have awakening. We need to have less control. What about the paradigm shift of the world, moving from the 3D to the 5D? You know, like there was all these kind of similar themes that were written in different styles depending on where the person was coming from in their own schema of things. But that's kind of where the core of the work started. And then that's when I realized, yes, well, this word love, you know, that has been a taboo in education is actually what is the missing ingredient, right?
Yes.
So, you know.
Yes, I love that. And I'd love to hear more about the NQ, the energy piece, because I feel like
Yes.
my work, I focused a lot on the EQ, right? But then the energy is an important piece too. And even when I'm reading this book right now about our heart consciousness and living more from our heart, they actually call it L energy and how the heart has its own energy fields. And I was like, oh, that sounds a lot like what Monique was talking about. So could you tell us more about that and how energy plays a role in our education?
Oh, totally, for sure. So, you know, for centuries already, we all know about the industrialized revolution, which created a system around, you know, this IQ quotient and all of this stuff, all in the mind, or focused just on this mind aspect of learning. And we all know that that's only just this tiny, tiny, tiny little piece that is, you know, it can be useful, of course. Of course, people are going to be using their mind for different aspects. I'm not saying don't use the mind, but it's just one tiny measurement. And from there, people are making decisions from the mind. Everything has been coming back to the mind. Like, so by using that mind and practicing working on the IQ, it's actually affecting your greater growth and your greater life decisions, your out of the box thinking, your choices for what you do for your soul purpose, things like that. It's almost like this contraction in the heart, you know. And then the EQ, of course, has been around for, you know, a really long time. There's a lot of different work around the EQ. I studied that myself, you know, in university and things like that. And it's very important to be able to, you know, to talk to children at their level and to be able to connect with their feelings. But the missing piece that hasn't been given any scope yet in education is what we coined in our book, the energetic quotient. And this piece is using the whole brain. So it's the body, the mind, and the spirit. And the whole brain actually links up to your hypothalamus at the top of the brain. So you're able to then use your left brain, right brain, and the whole brain. And it's actually a place where more concentration happens, less anxiety happens, joy is created. It's actually awakening. It's like I call it awakening, but people will call it different things: better regulation, more mindfulness, depending on what you're coming from. But it's this untapped field that as educators, I feel like it's our sole duty to actually tap into this field, because who are we not to treat our children and give them everything that we can, giving them the whole brain. I mean, they're born this way anyway, and it's just through these different kind of practices that it just stops working as much, because they're practicing more of the left brain or the right brain. But if they're able to also be constantly activating this other region, then wow, it's just like little superhumans that we have, you know. It's just, I just can't believe that there used to be a stigma around this, and it just doesn't make any sense to me, when actually this is the key for education, that we're unlocking this amazing potential, like this amazing potential that can heal trauma, heal anxiety, you know, heal pain, make children happy, make children like really freaking smart, you know, like as well as joyous. And you know, it just doesn't, you know, it just makes sense to me that that's what education needs to be, you know.
Absolutely. Like, why wouldn't we want to educate the whole person? Why wouldn't we want to try to help this child fulfill their full potential as a human, right? There's just so much possibility that we are overlooking kind of in the mainstream approach to how we educate.
Mm. Yeah, and I was researching around the Heart Math Institute, and they actually have it all documented as well. And they also refer to the energy of the heart, not only just in this area that I'm explaining around the NQ, but also in a frequency related back to the Earth's frequency. And so they have a lot of documentation around that as well, which I find really fascinating, because you'll notice that children and even us as adults are affected by the elements. We are affected by different patterns that are coming through. And so again, I feel that's also part of this whole child integration of education of the mind, the body, and the spirit bodies, because the earth is part of that as well. So linking through to that is really important as well.
Absolutely. And I know you spoke about collaborating with other educators and parents to create this book and to put out the new paradigm of education. So I'm wondering also how you feel about collaborating, like in the education system, and teaching children to collaborate, work together, because I feel like what I've seen in the current educational model is not so much like that. It's very individually focused. Like you have your own, they might do some projects together, but it's mostly like your own test scores, your own, and there's sort of like a competition almost. And I might see my worth as what my grades are. And I feel like that's just sort of subtle there. And I think the children know that, and it affects how they see themselves and their self-esteem if they're maybe not getting the scores their peers are.
So that's the whole core of the book and the new paradigm is hard wisdom has no competition.
Yes.
Hard wisdom, everybody's thriving. Hard wisdom, everybody's on divine purpose. So there's none of that. There's no need for any of that. And my message around that is that as parents, as educators, as anybody who is with children, is if we ourselves can work on ourselves, then we are able to then be better vessels. I call ourselves vessels for our children. I don't even see us as educators. I just see us as these channels for our children to help them to move into who they're here to be, which is their truth, their light, and their love. And I really feel that that is what a new paradigm really, really is. Like it's not about, as I said, using the left brain and placing them into these kind of structures. And I think all of that structures was created from that. So if more and more people in society or humanity are waking up and taking work on themselves, they're going to make changes like, okay, so I'm not happy with this type of schooling. Okay, well, what other options are there? Okay, what else can I be doing? And we've seen that already. Like I have a podcast that I work with different people. I met Brittany as well. And all the educators on there are all saying the same like me, like, you know, like there's people just stepping out of mainstream schooling, moving into these kind of educational hubs, doing homeschooling, whatever's feeling great for their children, just to be happy and to have that kind of connection, because I don't think we can actually just blame the school system and say, oh, the school system is not connected. I think it's a global disconnection. It's a bigger picture, you know, like, you know, we're born into a society where I know myself growing up, it was, you know, like, here's our family, but it's a micro family and we're not all doing everything all together. And it was never like this. It was like, I'll do this, I'll do that, you do this, you do that. And it was never this kind of wholehearted way of collaborating. So you said, how do we bring that into the schools? Well, yeah, of course you can, if you're in a school, of course you can create, you know, team-based learning and things, but sometimes that doesn't always work as well, because the children who are not used to that, or the ones that are shy, it may also cause them more anxiety because they're not used to that type of environment. So it's like I wouldn't even say making drastic changes. I'd say working with each child for who they are and just connecting with what they need. You know, your classroom may look different. It may have, you know, some children sitting together and some needing that space, and that's okay. The next day might look completely different again. You know, they may all want to just be alone. The next day they may want to all come together. But the secret for all of that is, how can we move into our heart? How can we expand our consciousness as educators? How can we show that with our children through, maybe you could share a little bit about your work, like through all the mindfulness activities and things that you do. All of that is going to lead to this kind of transformation of us, which then is going to lead to how things are flowing in the classroom. You know, it's not just a simple wave a magic wand, one fix for everybody, you know?
Yes, it's a very subtle shift. And I love when I'm looking around and seeing the work that's being done of bringing more emotional intelligence into the schools and mindfulness. And I love how a lot of times we start with the educators, right? So teaching mindfulness skills to the educators so that they are fully present with the children. Because if we're teaching them something and we're not embodying it, then are we really fully teaching that? Yeah.
Exactly. I had that download as well. Like, you know, for example, maths, like, am I an embodiment of maths? No, I've just looked at a book and then I've kind of passed a book on to a child. And I thought about that the other day and I'm like, who am I even to teach that? It's not like something that I've embodied. Whereas if you say, go and teach something around meditation, I can just like go straight into that process. And I know that they're actually learning through me just by sitting in my presence without me needing to even do anything, and that is my gift. And that is also a space of collaboration for everybody in the world, because we all have our own divine gift, our own kind of coding of what is our thing that lights us up and that we could share with everybody. And if everybody was able to come in and support and create this kind of community-based learning for children, they'd be really, really lit up, because they would feel our energy rather than us going, oh yes, here you go, here's your maths book. And it's like this disconnect, like, oh yeah, it's just this disconnect. But if you have it like, I'm channeled through, I'm going to share this, they'll be like, wow. And then it's like, okay, Brittany's going to do this. Oh my gosh, wow. And then what are you going to do? What's your purpose? Oh, your purpose is that. Oh, okay, beautiful. And that is all like working on the heart. And that is collaboration. It's like things like that cause the collaboration, not just sitting in a circle together. It's like the feeling and the energy of connection, I think, is what I'd call collaboration.
Yes, that's so important. And I talk about that a little bit in my work, is the bringing the connection into learning. If you're not connected to what you're learning, you're really not going to absorb it. So we want to be able for the children to feel connected to it. And I think it goes back to what you said too about focusing on the individual child and our gifts too. Every person has their own unique gifts, their own unique purpose. And I would love to see an education system where it's focused on that, and where not every child is expected to meet the same criteria, to go down the same path. I love like what you mentioned, because it just sounds like freedom to me, like how one day it might look like this and another day it might look like this. Like, I feel like in the current model, a lot of educators don't have the freedom to do that, because there is so many like limitations and standards, and fear about test scores and all of that. So I would love to see that freedom in the classroom, even in a structured way, because I know some of us are choosing to leave that and to do unschooling, homeschooling, but I feel like there always will be that structured learning option. So how can that also have more freedom in it, and more love and more connection? Because it's possible. It's just
totally possible. I was a mainstream teacher, and I always had freedom in my day. I just did whatever I wanted. Like, I had a few key ideas of what I thought would happen, but then if it didn't happen, I'd move it into a different space. And I would just always work with the energy of the child. Like, writing is a perfect example. Like, oh, you need to read Shakespeare. Oh no, what is Shakespeare? Okay, do you like Spider-Man? Okay, great. Let's go with Spider-Man. What color is Spider-Man? What's he doing? What's he doing? Like, so there's like little subtle changes. And I know teachers know this, like teachers who walk into the classroom, they know this. I feel like one amazing gift would be that we allow more and more community members into schools, that there's space for teachers to be able to really connect with children, as opposed to having a few minutes a day to actually have that silent connection, or that connection with the child. In the classroom, it's like you as I'm kind of like a frequency, and I'm there with all 30 children, and I can feel each frequency and where I need to go. But imagine a classroom where everybody is, looked after, and there's like only 5 or 6 students per teacher or per educator or parent, or, this type of environment. I think it would be a massive shift. And, I guess mainstream schooling still does have its place for some families that, maybe broken home families, for example. I don't want to place judgment on people, but maybe being at home for the child is not going to help their heart. They feel much more joy going to school. I've had that in many, many circumstances. I've helped so many children have a beautiful day, like just walking into the room and smiling, and I'm kind of their place of safety, like. So if you go into the field of education, it's like it's massive in the terms of the changes that could happen in all the different regions. There's also the adult education field. There's so I feel like it's just each parent and each educator just making a stand within themselves to really rise into that. And I have an example of that from when I was a teacher prior to my awakening. So awakening for me, or for people who are listening, I define it as a flowering of the heart. The Anahata chakra has opened, and it's a permanent shift in my consciousness. And how is that even possible, right? How can somebody move from having anxiety or having all of this stuff moving on to this permanent state? Well, it's because of my practice of my meditation and my mindfulness, and I guess my pursuit for happiness, my pursuit for joy, that, my will that I wanted it as well, And I feel before I was teaching from that place, I would walk into the room kind of Yeah, almost fearful, scared, wondering what would happen. And the children would feel that energy. And I was still learning, and so they would just kind of create all chaos around me and things like that. And I was just like, oh, what do I do? Do I be that crazy teacher that yells? Do I be the one that just sits there and, all of these like things that you're taught in the books about the behavior management, all of that, it just doesn't, none of it works. You've got to find your routine and your rhythm. And so for me, what I noticed drastically changing was when I worked on myself completely, and I was gifted this download of the awakening. And it may be more subtle for people out there who are listening. I know people who are following you, Brittany, are very, what I've seen from this summit so far, a very spiritual type of people, so you'll probably get it. But it's all these like little subtle pieces that are coming in that is helping your consciousness to change to that point where you're able to be totally regulated, totally happy, and totally enjoy. When I was in that place of teaching, the whole room changed completely changed. Like the children were like so happy all day. They're like, why are you always so happy? And yeah, it was just, and my soul was actually deeply connected to them. Like I every day would feel their energy, and I'd actually have to kind of cut my energy from them because I was just in this bubble of almost love and joy with them. And so it's really possible for educators to continue that path. And if something's not working in the classroom and it doesn't feel good, make a stand that it's not working, and that would be my message. And the more educators that are doing that, the more it's going to be changing, the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you brought up the children that are coming from a broken home. I know it's a difficult thing to think about, but it is true. And in these cases, educators have like a really great opportunity to make a difference in these kids' lives. And I think a lot of times we hear about, how every child it deserves an education and how we want to give this education to them. And they're thinking of it on like a mental level and educate intellect so they can learn to read and do math and all these things. But also, every child also deserves the, emotional intelligence too. And so that's really what prompted me to say, yes, this needs to be in every school and every classroom, because there are children who aren't going to get that at home, and school is the only place that they would be able to learn that information, and they really need those skills. And so in my work I was doing as a therapist, I was getting the kids after the fact, after they were already showing signs of problems or going through traumas or whatever it was. And I'm like, well, what about prevention, and how we can help every child, right? So I was only seeing the ones that were actively showing problems, but the whole classroom, the whole school, they could benefit from that work. So that's why I want more than anything for EQ to be in every classroom, because I know some of these children aren't getting these skills at home.
Yeah, and the EQ, as well, from what I've seen in the Australian curriculum for what I followed, is written into the curriculum as a checkpoint. As a checkpoint, it's written as mental health. It's one of the many checkpoints, but I believe it should be something that's practiced every day, every lesson, every break, every transition, even every moment. Like once you start to embody mindfulness, it just becomes an embodiment in a lifestyle. But for, as you're saying, for these children that are still just learning the fundamental skills, I think this is far, far, far more important than them learning maths. Because you know what, when they graduate from school, if you want to call it graduation still, like that sounds just so old fashioned and old paradigm, right? But once they finish from that, what they're going to have inside of them is their character, and their character is going to be leading them to the opportunities. And the world that we're in now, there's so many opportunities. It's limitless. It's not like you need to go to university or you need to have a job. You can choose different avenues of creation and gifts. And I really feel that this next generation, if we can empower them to really know who they are as humans, to be loving, to be joyful, and be on purpose, that's going to be the start of this education revolution. They're going to be like the first change makers. And then when they're finishing school, they're going to be like, no way, we're not doing that. We're going to be doing this. And what about our children? Wow, our children are going to be doing this. So it's like an effect that's going to flow on and flow on and flow on. And it's only just the beginning since this pandemic, because I really love what's happened in the pandemic. Like as heartbreaking as it has been for many people, myself included at times, I just love that there's this kind of debunking of everything and this space for people to step into their truth of who they are.
It's been an opportunity to really look at our systems that we've had in place and to say, well, is this really the best that we can do? Is this really how we want to do things? And I just love the new paradigm and the possibility for the future generations. Like, it would be amazing to see, a couple generations forward of these people who aren't having to go back and do all this unlearning, right? Like, I feel like our previous generations had so much like unlearning to do. And if we could just create something new, that might not be such a case, where it's more of a freedom. You don't have all this baggage, all this other stuff that you have to let go of, but you're already present in the moment. You have the skills. It's just such a different way to live. And I see the possibility, and I see it coming, like, just in these little steps. And then it's just going to create this big ripple.
Yeah, we're at a bridging point from what I call the 3D reality and moving into the fifth dimensional reality. So we're still dealing with a lot of the traumas from our own years and ancestral years of education, of life, of everything like that. And so we're at the moment, this bridge that's being created for this new paradigm, this portal, it's moving up now into the rising of the paradigm, where I'm seeing people finally stepping into rising. And then the final step, well, the thing that I then see is education is then just a place of complete embodiment. So it can be happening through channeling, through, without reading books, people just already know the information. It's coming kind of cosmically. And I don't know if everybody will understand that, but I've been in deep meditations, I've been able to kind of tap into what I see. I don't have words exactly for what I see, but I can see that it's just like this fluidity, and there's none of this kind of need to have kind of physical objects to be teaching us things, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. And, even outside of that, just with our technology, like, we have access to information instantly, right? It's just in the palm of your hand. And so I think it's outdated, like this, like, fact memorization and all of that. Like, it really serves no purpose anymore. If we need that information, we can find it. But what really is going to serve a purpose is that character development, that emotional intelligence, because that's going to affect your life and how you are in every aspect of your life, your relationships, your family, the work that you're doing. It's really everywhere. Where so much of what I personally learned in school, I never used again. And I know that's the case for most of us, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like, for example, writing at the moment, I still, I write books, I still write, I use some skills, but it can come from that place of curiosity, of wanting to know, well, how do I write and what am I going to use that for? But yeah, in the future, maybe we're using more like telepathy, or we're using different forms of communication that writing doesn't need to be as prominent as it is. I don't know if that sounds a bit woo-woo for some people, but I've felt it in my field as a reality. So I just wanted to place that in there as a new paradigm. Let's think really outside of the box and think, well, what else can it be? What else can it be? What else can it be? And let's try this, let's try that. And a new paradigm can just be one simple step. It could just be making a change. Okay, today I'm going to do 5 minutes of meditation. Okay, today I'm going to connect with my child deeply. I'm going to listen to my child. I'm going to sit with them and listen to them. Maybe today I'm going to put little crystals all around my house, and I'm going to go on a crystal hunt with my child, and I'm going to create connection and then maybe curiosity around what they are and what they do. So there's all different little tweaks that can happen that will lead to this global change. And I'm just so grateful when I meet people that are all on the same frequency of this change, because I know that it's really a reality. It's nothing to do with me. It's this paradigm shift of the world and a paradigm shift of education.
Yes, so beautiful. Thank you so much, Monique, for being here and for having this conversation with me today. What would you like to leave for our viewers, and how can they find you if they want to purchase your book or to listen to your podcast? Please tell us more about that.
Yeah, sure. I might just put a link in the comments. I have a Facebook group, A New Paradigm of Education, and there's a link on Amazon. You can always go on Amazon, and I'll just show you the book. You can get the book on Amazon, and 10% of it is going to the Unstoppable Foundation as well. We're helping children from Africa to be able to attend school as well. And yeah, my offering to the world is I'm here to support children. So if your child is needing support in terms of like basic skills of learning, or different types of skills, meditation and things like that. I offer that for children, and I also do the same for adults. I'm a blessing giver, so I channel different types of energy, and I allow you to feel that energy within yourself and ignite you to feel that, and then you can then wake up and be able to serve yourself and humanity better. And I really am a stand for awakening for humanity. So it can come in different forms, but I'll place my links in the bottom of the comments.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Monique. And thank you to our viewers. From my heart to yours, until next time. Namaste.
Namaste.